It says that I'm live now. Let me check my mobile device to make sure that everything is on the up and up, that y'all can hear me real well. Let's see where we at. Where we at? Let's see. Hmm. I think we are live. I think. Bear with me. I haven't done this in a long time. In a long time. So just bear with me. Um, Bear with me. Yep. We're good to go. I hear my raspy, non-sexy voice. Um, Welcome, folks, to another edition of Collect All Monsters vlog. This is vlog number 3. Now, this kind of came out of nowhere. It's kind of like a random thing. I did a couple of these, I think, last year, where I just basically just talk off the top of my head. And these vlogs, again, they're just my thoughts coming out, right? There's not really a big format to the show like we normally do, like with our main shows or our supplemental stuff. This is basically just my raw thoughts. And I was driving the other day, because I'm a truck driver in my day job, right? Hey, what's going on? I'll get to the chat in a few seconds. I was driving the other day, and I was like, you know what? I was thinking about Ghidorah, the three-headed monster, for some reason. And I thought about, you know what? As much as we love the Mothra versus Godzilla suit, the Mosugoji, I don't think there's enough love shown to the 64B suit, of Godzilla from Ghidorah. Um, Again, the Mosugoji is more celebrated, and I know I'm guilty of that too because it is my favorite incarnation and suit of Godzilla. But I don't think the 64B gets enough credit. He kind of gets overshadowed by the Mosugoji, even though it's by and large the same suit, just modified here and there. So I figured I would do a vlog, basically, calling to action that we should show some appreciation to the 64B Godzilla, from Ghidorah, ironically celebrating the anniversary this year. So that's going to be the purpose of this vlog. Again, these vlogs, myself and the other hosts of Collect All Monsters, we do have access to the show. We have access to our studio where we do our shows. And anybody can come up here anytime they want and talk about whatever, as long as it's not too controversial, as long as there's not too much cussing involved, if any. But it's just another way for us to beef up content on the channel. You know what I'm saying? Between these vlogs, our main shows, our supplemental shows, we're trying to pump out as much content as we can. But again, we're going to be talking about this guy, the 64B Godzilla from Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster. A couple of people in the chat right now. We have 6 people watching. Thank you so much. Even though, again, this was kind of like random. I just set the show up like 20 minutes ago. So the fact that y'all are here, really, really do appreciate it. Garage Kick Goon, good morning. What's going on, Joey? How you doing? Hopefully more people will filter on in. If not, maybe they can catch it on the replay. But before we go into the 64B, let me address something that involves the Monster with Attitude crew. In case you don't know, they did a great show last week involving their review of Monarch Legacy of Monsters, where they they all were critiquing the show. They were giving their thoughts and opinions about the show, their favorite episodes, their least favorite episodes, what the show got right, what the show got wrong in their opinion. And towards the tail end of that show, because remember last week was our Collect All Monsters show. And normally when I go, normally I'm there in the Monsters with Attitude chat whenever they do shows, causing ruckus like I normally do. But towards the tail end of that show, I couldn't really be there because I was prepping for our show on Collect All Monsters. But my name was brought up towards the tail end of that show. So I want to thank you to Michael and Eric and everybody on the show that thought enough of me to basically they spoke for me, you know what I'm saying, where they were ranking basically the Monsterverse, the films as well as the anime, as well as the Monarch Legacy TV show. And Michael spoke for me, and he said basically, if he knows me as much as he thinks as he does, here's how I will rank the Monsterverse in terms from my most favorite to my least favorite. And he said that my most favorite Monsterverse property is Godzilla vs. Kong. Then it would go to Kong Skull Island. Then it would go to, what do you say? Godzilla King of the Monsters 2019. Then it would go to Kong Skull Island, the anime. Then it would go to maybe Monarch, and then maybe 2014 is kind of like filling out the gaps towards the end. And y'all were kind of right. Because again, I love the MonsterVerse. Not everything involved in the MonsterVerse is a winner, but by and large, I do love that series of films and TV shows. But here's how I would personally rank them from my most favorite to my least favorite. Ironically, my most favorite is not Godzilla vs. Kong. It's actually Godzilla King of the Monsters 2019. Like, I love that movie. You know what I'm saying? I don't understand the amount of hate that film gets from some people. Granted, the human part of the story may be a little bit dry and all that good stuff, but by and large, the movie is really, really fun. And the monster action does carry the movie despite the dry human story. So that would be my most favorite. My next one would be Kong Skull Island. So you were right about that being my second favorite. Third favorite would probably be Monarch. I really do enjoy that show. So Monarch would definitely be number 3. Number 4 would be Godzilla vs. Kong. So kind of like the inverse there. Again, I've said many times before, I enjoyed that movie, but the monster action is really, really cool. But the human story is kind of lacking. It really is. And me being a fan of both Kong and Godzilla, I kind of felt that the human story should have been more than what it was, especially when you bring these two together. Because not often that you have Godzilla and Kong in the same movie together. So when you have that opportunity, you should at least try and strive for perfection, or at least have the human story knock it out of the park. And it doesn't in a lot of ways, but still the monster action does carry that movie for me. But still, it's not enough. I love Kong, but even he is not enough to save that movie to put it in the top spot for me. And I've never seen the anime of Skull Island, so I can't really count that. And towards the tail end would be 2014. So 2014 is my least favorite. So again, most favorite to least favorite: Godzilla King of the Monsters, Kong Skull Island, Monarch Legacy of Monsters, Godzilla vs. Kong, and then 2014. So again, Michael and Eric was kind of right. Y'all know me well that I don't really care for the anime stuff, whatever, like, the anime trilogy or Singular Point. And I've heard great things about Singular Point, but again, I can't really get into that show, honestly. But that's what I would rank the MonsterVerse. But again, please go back to their show, the Monster Attitude YouTube channel, and check out their show involving Monarch Legacy of Monsters. It was really, really fun, really, really cool. And one of their front runners in the chat right now, Godzilla Train 1090. What's up, Adrian? Thanks for being here. But you know what? Let's talk about the 1964 B Godzilla suit. And before we go into the collectibles I have of him, I don't really have that many, just 2. I want to showcase something I got in the mail from my fellow co-host on Collect All Monsters, John Ruffin, the professor. It took him a minute. It took him a while to get this to me, but he finally got this to me while he was in Japan on Godzilla Day last year in November. He was able to get me this Ghidorah, the Three-Headed Monster completion book, you know what I'm saying? Which is really, really cool. Thank you so much, John, for getting this to me, even though you're kind of 3 months behind, just saying, but but better late than never. And I'm a fan of these completion books, not every single one of them. It just depends on the movie. But when he said he was going to get this for me, I was like, sure, I'll take it, And ironically, even though Mothra vs. Godzilla is my favorite movie, I don't have that book yet. Call me a fake fan, I don't care. I got Ghidorah before I got Mothra vs. Godzilla, So again, this stream is kind of timely because of this, whatever. So again, thank you to John. We do appreciate it. And, if you're not familiar with these completion books, it offers pictures and behind the scenes stuff, of Godzilla and, Ghidorah. Sorry, the glare is kind of like blocking out the images here, but and pretty much everything's in Japanese text, so I can't understand what they're saying. But I love this movie so much. It's in my top 10. It's in number 4 in my top 10 of favorite Godzilla films. I know enough about the movie where I don't really need to read the Japanese text of everything, but it has, every single poster about the film, production still, lobby cards, information about the individual monsters themselves. So again, if you're a fan of this movie, you really owe it to yourself to go after this book. You know what I'm saying? So please get it. All right, you're not disappointed. Thank you, John. Love you. Really do appreciate it. All right, so let's talk about the 64 B Godzilla. And again, in terms of collectibles, you saw I got the not only that book of Ghidorah, the completion book about Ghidorah. I have this total visual book of Godzilla from the film. And again, this book showcases some photographs about Godzilla, from the film and all that good stuff. And just really, really cool images. Remember that scene right there where Rodan, brought the business to Godzilla and dropped on crotch first on that tower? That's so cool. So aside from that, I also have the X plus 25 centimeter 1964 B Godzilla is the only figure representation I have of him. Hopefully, I'm trying to rectify that between David Dapko and Marcellus Winters, because Monster Maker 28 put out an awesome kit of the 64 Godzilla B. And in my opinion, even though I love this one, the Monster Maker 28 is like on another level. So I'm hoping to at least grab one, because I know Marcellus has one all built up and painted. David has one all built up and painted. So hopefully I can convince one of them to sell me theirs, but I'm not losing out on hope yet, or maybe Monster Maker 28 will reissue the kit, because again, they just reissued, the 95 Gals to go along with Gamma that they just put out for Winterfest a couple of weeks ago. So never say never, Monster Maker 28 may reissue the 64B kit, but in the meantime, I'm trying to work down David. I'm trying to work down Marcellus, and hopefully I can get my hands on that kit. In the meantime, this is such a great piece, especially when this figure came out, because the standard came with just Godzilla by himself. But the Rick option came with a mini replica, flying replica of Rodan, as well as a mini larval form of Mothra in like a combined set, excuse me. I didn't really want to go for the set because, again, it's a mini replica of Rodan and Mothra, and they're not really in scale with Godzilla. And when you put it up against, let's say, the 25 centimeter King Ghidorah 64, Rodan and Mothra are way out of scale. And I'm kind of stickler when it comes to scale, especially involving my most favorite movies. So that's why I didn't go for the Rick. But I do have a 25 centimeter Rodan and Mothra, so I can recreate that setup if I want to. But this is such a really, really cool piece. You know what I'm saying? So I put them right here for the time being. But this suit, again, is a variation of the suit used in the previous film of Mothra vs. Godzilla, the Mosugoji. And even though the differences are really minute in a way, they're really big, especially in terms like of his eyes. Like the major differences between the suit is really his eyes, right? His eyes are more rounded. Yeah, as you can see here, his eyes are more rounded right here. They don't have the sinister pupils that the Mosugoji did. Also, they gave him like a long tongue they put in his mouth, and the suit, obviously went through some wear and tear in Mothra vs. Godzilla. It wasn't as bad as like the 72 suit from Gigan, but the suit is a little bit more darker, excuse me, by the time we get to Ghidorah. Not a lot of wear and tear, but you can tell that it's been through, some action, but it's not bad. But again, this was the start of Godzilla becoming a babyface. This was the movie that started Godzilla's turn into a babyface. Now, some people would say that this was the movie that turned Godzilla into a babyface outright. Like he is a good guy outright. I will argue that, honestly, the first time that Godzilla, in my opinion, becomes a good guy, like the superhero of Japan, was really in 1971's Godzilla vs. Hedorah. All the movies, in my opinion, between Ghidorah and, let's say, Destroy All Monsters, not going to really count Godzilla's Revenge, because technically, even though it's a Godzilla movie, what happened in the film doesn't really coincide with the rest of the monster action that happened in the Showa period at that point. It was all within the mind of Ichiro, so that doesn't really count. But I will argue that it was a slow burn for Godzilla from becoming a villain to a babyface, because even though, again, by this time in the late 60s, he was like the lesser between two evils. He was like that monster that was used to take out a more evil monster. But still, there were times where he did some heelish things. Like, even though he was controlled in Monster Zero and Destroy All Monsters, he was still attacking the world and destroying the world, Or when he tried to kill Mothra in Sea Monster, So even though Godzilla was becoming more or less of a threat, he was still a threat nonetheless. But again, it was a slow burn of a babyface turn. It wasn't like an abrupt turn like they did with Gamma. Like in Gamma, his first film in 1965, he was the outright villain. In 66, kind of like Godzilla here in Ghidorah, he was a tweener. He wasn't the full-fledged good guy, but yet he was still doing some heelish things. Then by Gauss, he was a full-fledged good guy. So his turn, Gamera's turn, was more abrupt, whereas Godzilla was more of a slow burn. You know what I'm saying? But again, they made a decision because they wanted Godzilla to appeal more to children. You know, they wanted to change the audience. You know what I'm saying? So that was the reason for the change here. But again, a lot of people don't really talk about this suit. And I think this suit does deserve some recognition. As a matter of fact, I know there are some people that actually prefer this suit, or at least prefer this design over the Mosugoji. My great friend Eric Henry, he's one of them, you know, and I give him crap for it. They're both cool, don't get me wrong. But, you know, again, he favors this suit over the Mosugoji. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But again, this was the start of Godzilla becoming the babyface and the hero of Japan and of the world. You know what I'm saying? So that was really, really cool. And what's also noteworthy about this suit is that this was the first suit that was reused for a mainstream appearance. Pretty much every single Godzilla design, 54, 55, 62, they were one-offs. You know what I'm saying? They only had a one-time appearance, but the Mosugoji was the first time that they actually used Godzilla suit for a mainstream appearance. Now, we do see the King Goji in Mothra vs. Godzilla. We all know that. Is used in the water scenes. At the very end, when Godzilla is approaching Iwa Island, where we see him from a distance, that's actually the Mosugoji. Or when he's wrapped in the web and he's dumped into the ocean and he tumbles over into the ocean off the cliff on the island, that's actually the King Goji. But again, 54, 55, 62, they were all one-offs. I think that is more beneficial for them because, again, I think their designs work for their particular story. Like, in my opinion, 54 wouldn't work in Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster, or 55 damn sure wouldn't work in Mothra vs. Godzilla, you know what I'm saying? Or the King Goji, I don't know. Could the King Goji work in Mothra vs. Godzilla? I posed that question before on Collect All Monsters because of my KOC King Goji kit that David Dopko made for me. Such a great kit. He did such a great job, but he gave it a more unique, sinister twist to it. I'm looking at it right now, and it kind of makes me wonder, would the King Goji work in Mothra vs. Godzilla? Let me know. Let me know in the comment section what you think. I know some people feel like that it would, and then some people feel like that it don't. So that's fine. But again, you know, this suit, you know, was the first time that Toho reused the suit, and again, it would go on to become Gomez and Ultra Q. The lower half of the body, like the Mosugoji part of the body with the dorsal plates and blah, 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 that would end up being used for Jiras and Ultraman, where they used the body of the Mosugoji. They chopped off the head of Godzilla from Sea Monster while they were filming Sea Monster, no less. Put it on top of the Mosugoji suit, put a frill around it, and that's how you got Jiras. So again, there was some mileage in this suit, you know, whatever. But by the time we get to Jiras, like, God almighty, there's a part where Ultraman knocks down Jiras and he falls backwards and his legs are kicking up. You can see like the bottom of the suit is torn. It is like ripped up. There's holes in it. Again, shades of the 72 Gigan Godzilla suit, you know. So it was on his last legs. But again, you know, it would go on to become Gomez. And when you see that episode from Ultra Q, you can tell it's the 64B suit. All they did was basically, they gave it eyebrows. They took off the dorsal plates, put some armor plating on his back, put some spikes on his tail, gave him Gorgo-type armored hands. I think put some plates on his chest. But by and large, when you look at the face, you look at, you know, the arm placement, you look at the thighs and all that good stuff, and the tail, you can tell it's a 64B suit, you know what I'm saying? But ironically, you know what? When it comes to me being exposed to this suit, I was exposed to this suit before I saw Mothra vs. Godzilla, because y'all know my first movie was Megalon. And around that time, I started seeing, at least trying to gain access to as many Godzilla films as I could. You know, 56, King of the Monsters, King Kong vs. Godzilla, Monster Zero, Sea Monster, Son of Godzilla, 74, Gigan 72, 85, you know, and right in the middle of that, I saw Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster. So ironically, that's the first time I was exposed to this suit. And I enjoyed it. What really caught my eye is that the dorsal plates reminded me of the King Gojis. And for some reason, I love that style of dorsal plates on the King Goji, the Mosugoji, and the 64B suit here. Just the style of dorsal plates, like I just love, this one, this one, this one, this one. You know what I'm saying? It's like my favorite arrangement of dorsal plates. So when I saw that, I was like, oh, there might be a variation of the King Kong versus Godzilla suit. And I guess it is in a way. I don't think it's the same dorsal plates that was on the King Goji. I think they made basically just copies. But I like the shapes of them and the way they're placed on Godzilla's back. Kind of like the King Goji was really, really cool. Because again, I didn't see Mothra versus Godzilla until many years later, after I saw Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster. So again, my exposure to this suit was really, really early on, and I enjoyed it back then, and I still do. And when you think about Godzilla from this film, again, with him being turned into a baby face or a slow turn into a baby face, it's kind of like wrestling terminology, right? Sometimes the best way to turn a heel or a bad guy into a good guy is to bring about an even worse bad guy. And that's what they did with Ghidorah, with Godzilla. You know what I'm saying? And I appreciate this movie more so than Monster Zero. Now, I would say Monster Zero probably has the strongest story between the two, to be honest with you. But I've always maintained that the monster action in Ghidorah is way better than Monster Zero. You know what I'm saying? What I love about this film is how pretty much all the stuff, all the random stuff, at least all the kaiju stuff, all the catastrophes and stuff, they all happen pretty much at the exact same time. It's kind of random, but they all happen at the exact same time. With the appearance of that Martian lady, and she tells Japan, like, look, y'all got some bad trouble coming, and nobody believes her. You know what I'm saying? But then all of a sudden, Rodan pops up, after being gone from 1956, the first time that Rodan has been introduced into the Godzilla series, kind of like Mothra from the previous film. Then on top of that, when you think things can't get any worse, you got Godzilla, and then now you have a monster that's more powerful and deadly than both of them combined, King Ghidorah. They all converge on Japan at the exact same time. And that is what I love about Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster, more so than Monster Zero in terms of the kaiju action. I just love, like, when you think things are bad with Rodan, you think things can't get any worse with Godzilla, but things get worse when Ghidorah arrives. So I really do enjoy that. As a matter of fact, I think Godzilla's interest in this film, is really underrated. It's an interest that doesn't get talked about that much. When you think about awesome interests of Godzilla in the Showa period or Heisei period, or at least overall in terms of Godzilla, the ones that come to mind to me is, of course, his first appearance on Odo Island in the original film. That was cool. The iceberg interest in King Kong versus Godzilla. Of course, in Mothra versus Godzilla, when he rises up out of the ground, that was really, really cool. Him popping up in Terror in Tokyo in Terror Mecha Godzilla, him coming out on the volcano in Biollante, him rising up out of the water in GMK. Even 2014, yes, I would give 2014. Again, even though 2014 is my least favorite MonsterVerse film, I would have to say that his interest in 2014 at the airport was really, really cool. It was really, really cool. But I think also him rise up out of the ocean in Ghidorah Three-Headed Monster is worth an honorable mention. You know what I'm saying? What's up, Robert D? What's up, Greg? Hold on, let me see. Let me answer this question. Garage Cake Goon, link to the book that Leslie got, both Kindle hard copy. If you're talking about this book or you're talking about this book, again, John got this for me in Japan, right? I think he got it from the Godzilla store, and I got this from the Godzilla store as well. So you might want to hit up the Godzilla store website, and maybe you can track down this book as well as the Ghidorah book. But that's where pretty much I got my books. The Godzilla store, the website, either the U.S. branch or you can try the one in Japan. Either way, get your hands on those books. Now, going back to the interest of Godzilla and Ghidorah, I love how, again, they kind of built up the scene. It wasn't abrupt. After, Rodan reveals himself and they at the port, they're trying to send off the Shobijin, they're trying to wish him well, like, have a safe trip going back, the infant island. Then the Martian lady pops up and says, you may not want to take that ship out there. And right then you kind of saw where it was going. And it was like, okay, that was like a little subtle reference that maybe something was going to happen, you know what I'm saying? And then, they show up at the hotel with the Martian lady and a reporter, and the Shobijin was like, yeah, when what she said at the port, we was like, yeah, we're gonna heed what she was saying. Then it cuts to the sea, excuse me, cuts to the boat at sea. You know, it's in the middle of the night. It's dark. The ship is out there by itself. You kind of knew where it was going because it was a shot of a tourist ship, you know. Then all of a sudden you see like a pack of fish, probably whales, right? And they're frantically swimming on top of the water. And it's like a pack of them, but it seems like they are frantically trying to swim away from something. Then the camera pans over all the way to the right, and you see Godzilla, his dorsal plates just rise up like this. Oh my God. And then you hear his theme, and then he roars. And you know, going back to what I said earlier, that this was a slow burn, babyface burn, it was a slow babyface turn for Godzilla, because the first thing he does is set that ocean liner on fire. So again, Godzilla, he's not the full-fledged good guy just yet. You know, he still is somewhat the murderous evil Godzilla from Mothra versus Godzilla, you know. And I like that. I actually like that they kept Godzilla's persona from the previous film, even though he would radically change into the wacky King Goji style Godzilla towards the tail end of the movie. But I love that scene. And then when he pops up in Tokyo, and then when he comes across Rodan for the first time, that was an iconic moment. It's like Godzilla is in the middle of the ocean, and he's trying to figure out what he's gonna do. All of a sudden, Rodan comes in from the sky, and Godzilla just looking at him slowly, basically saying to himself, "Okay, dude, what are you doing? What do you want?" Which ends up being a threat in the movie, because basically Rodan basically stalks Godzilla. He follows Godzilla, which leads to the next scene involving Godzilla, where he basically resumes his rampage like he did in Mothra vs. Godzilla, where he starts attacking the countryside of Japan near Mount Fuji. But there's a twist. Rodan is there too, and Rodan was kind of stalking Godzilla, and Rodan just had enough and just basically went in on Godzilla. And I actually appreciate that. That's why this Rodan is my favorite Rodan of all time. My favorite Rodan design, my favorite Rodan movie, more so than the original. I love how he brought the fight to Godzilla. He was like, you know what, I'm sick and tired of you being king of the monsters. And he just basically, without being provoked, because Godzilla didn't really do anything to him, honestly, Rodan starts to fight with Godzilla first. I actually appreciate that. I actually do appreciate that. You know what I'm saying? But then that creates their, back and forth, battle. At the same time, King Ghidorah has been unleashed, and he's heading towards Japan. Again, just when you think things couldn't get worse for the Japanese people, But I love the banter, or at least the fighting between Godzilla and Rodan. They weren't really trying to kill each other. They were just trying to one-up each other. You know what I'm saying? Rodan using his speed and his quickness, his speed and his quickness, and his ability to fly to get the better of Godzilla. And Godzilla, using his atomic breath, and him being a more grounded creature. You know what I'm saying? Two opposite creatures basically going at each other. But again, they weren't trying to kill each other, at least in my opinion. They were just trying to get the better of the other one. And I actually enjoyed that. Basically, it was a draw. Like, that was a draw. Like, don't give me that crap with King Kong versus Godzilla at the end. This was a true draw between Godzilla and Rodan, because you can't really say one monster had an advantage over the other one. There was some times that Godzilla got the better of Rodan. There was some times Rodan got the better of Godzilla. I actually appreciate, and I do appreciate that, because again, it wouldn't make much sense if one would have got the better of the other one. So when they would eventually go on to fight King Ghidorah, one of them would have been seen as like the weak link. So I like how they both were kept strong and on an even playing field when they were going after each other, which plays into how they will fight King Ghidorah later on. And then you get to the scene where you have the monster summit, where Mothra is summoned to have a conversation with Rodan and Godzilla. And I know some fans don't really like that. They don't like the fact that, again, this was going towards more silly territory, But actually, when you sit down and listen to the conversation, even though, again, the idea of a gigantic caterpillar, gigantic pteranodon, and gigantic tyrannosaurus, stegosaurus, hybrid dinosaur having a conversation as if they can really understand each other communication-wise, I know on paper it's silly, but you're kind of able to buy into it. And I think this is where Inoshiro Honda, the director of the film, had his hands all over it, because you kind of get a sense, you understand why Godzilla and Rodan would not be quick to just drop what they're doing to defend mankind. In their minds, mankind has always been trying to kill them, destroy them, which again, I think Inoshiro Honda has something to do with that scene, because I'm paraphrasing here, but I think he said a long time ago that basically monsters, they were basically born too big, and that's their tragedy. You know what I'm saying? Because again, even though we're at a point in the Showa series where the series was starting to getting more whimsical and wacky, I know that Inoshiro Honda wasn't really a fan of that direction. He felt that nothing comedic should be attributed to the monsters. He felt they should be being he felt that they should be more protected and they should be presented as more serious characters. Like nothing silly should be involved with the monsters. You can do it with the human characters, but not the monsters. They should be the ones that should be kept serious in the movie. So he wasn't really a big fan of how they were changing Godzilla's persona into a more silly persona, you know. So I kind of think that this was his way of trying to draw it back, you know, trying to make it more of an even playing field because he already knew where the series was going. But I think that was his way of trying to like bring some balance to it and trying to give them more character without making them seem so silly. But again, you kind of understand why Godzilla and Rodan would not be equipped to mankind's defense. You understand why they wouldn't do that. You know, you're kind of on their side in a way, even though they're technically they're the antagonists at this point before they have a change of heart. But then Mothra just throws her hands up. Well, she don't have hands, but you know what I'm talking about. And she proceeds to fight King Ghidorah, which then persuades Godzilla and Rodan to jump into the fight, which also brings me to King Ghidorah. This, in my opinion, is my favorite version of King Ghidorah. I love this version of King Ghidorah. It gets my favorite version of King Ghidorah. It's my favorite designer of King Ghidorah. It's my favorite movie of King Ghidorah. And to me, this is just my opinion, and I'm about to say something that's kind of like controversial. To me, ever since Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster, as a King Ghidorah fan, Ghidorah, from a character point of view, has been on a downhill decline ever since that movie. As awesome as Monster Zero is, as awesome as Destroy All Monsters is, as awesome as Godzilla vs. Gigan is, and that's my second favorite Godzilla film of all time. The way King Ghidorah is handled in those films, not really good, in my opinion. And so, in my opinion, the MonsterVerse did more to honor King Ghidorah in that one film of 2019 than Toho did with Monster Zero, Destroy All Monsters, and Godzilla vs. Gigan combined. Yes, I stand by that. I stand by that. MonsterVerse Ghidorah was evil. He was a killer. He wasn't a pawn of an alien race. He was actually king of the monsters, if you think about it. When Godzilla goes away after being weakened by the Oxygen Destroyer, and the Destroyer doesn't do jack to Ghidorah, but in a brief period, King Ghidorah or Monster Zero does become king of the monsters just for a little bit. That is something that Toho has never done. Never done. So that's why I say the MonsterVerse Ghidorah did more to honor Ghidorah than Toho did with 65, 68, and 72. In 65, he was just there. You know what I'm saying? He was just like another of the monsters, even though he's supposed to be the main villain of the film. But it comes across like he's just there. Like he doesn't have a standout performance or presence like he did in 64. Don't even get me started on Destroy All Monsters, how he's shoehorned in, and he is cursed out into the ground. No. You don't do King Ghidorah like that. I'm sorry. And on top of that, in Godzilla vs. Gigan, again, I love that movie, but at the same time, you relegate him to sidekick status to Gigan. King Ghidorah is a one-man army monster by himself. Him having backup in Gigan would have made that team an impossible tag team to defeat. Now I know why they did it, because again, Godzilla and Angus were the underdogs. But on paper, there is no way that Angus and Godzilla should be able to defeat King Ghidorah and Gigan, especially again if King Ghidorah had backup in Gigan. So that's why I say that King Ghidorah was honored more in 2019 alone than what they did with Toho did with Ghidorah in 65, 68, and 72. That's just my opinion. And you can't change my mind on that. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm a huge King Ghidorah fan, but as much as I love Monster Zero and Destroy All Monsters and Gigan, I have to be honest, I'm not a big fan of how they handled King Ghidorah in those films. I'm just saying. But again, going back to 64, or Ghidorah Three-Headed Monster, I love how Ghidorah was presented as such an awesome, powerful threat that it really took the strength of the Earth's mightiest monsters to bring him down. But I also like how each individual monster tries to fight King Ghidorah one-on-one, and it doesn't fare well for them in the end. Mothra tries to fight Ghidorah one-on-one. She fails. Rodan tries to do the same thing. He fails. Godzilla tries to do the same thing. He fails. Only when converging on Ghidorah at the exact same time at certain points were they able to bring him down. Mothra attacks his lower body. Rodan attacks from the sky on his back. Godzilla takes the brunt of the punishment by going after his heads, and all three of them together eventually were able to bring down King Ghidorah. And I love how it was a long fight. It wasn't like a sudden, abrupt fight like it was in Monster Zero. Don't get me started on that either. But I love how, again, they basically just they use a numbers game to their advantage, and they converge on King Ghidorah at the exact same time, and they were able to bring him down. Kind of like, you know what, I said this scenario on Facebook, I think a while ago, but if you put that in today's terms, in real life terms, right? If you're a wrestling fan, I think you know where I'm going with this. And even though this guy is not really popular right now, but I'm gonna use him as an example. Okay, let's say you're watching WrestleMania with two of your buddies. It's just you and two of your buddies. It's three of y'all, right? And let's just say, you're watching, wrestling, and all of a sudden Brock Lesnar comes in, busting through your front door, and he says, basically, I'm here to kill you and take your house. So it's up to the three of y'all to take out him. You will probably need to deploy the same strategy that Godzilla, Rodan, and Mothra did. One has to attack from the front. One has to attack from the back. One has to attack his lower body. And hopefully, maybe you can bring him down. I don't see that happening. I really don't. Brock Lesnar? No, I don't see that happening. But at least it worked for Mothra, Rodan, and Godzilla. You know what I'm saying? And also to show how awesome King Ghidorah is, they weren't able to kill him. Don't forget about that. Now, yes, the Ghidorah was defeated. They were able to drive him away from the world, but they were not able to kill him. They were just able to bring him down, subdue him, and send him packing where Ghidorah had enough. But they were not able to kill him. I think that there's also another feather in the cap of King Ghidorah, how he was such a powerful monster that it took everything that Godzilla, Rodan, and Mothra, it took everything they had and what they were able to throw at him. But even though they were able to drive him away, it wasn't enough to kill him. So I think it was a good thing involving Ghidorah. And then that last shot, when you see Godzilla and Rodan and Mothra, they come into the edge of the mountain as they see Ghidorah fly away. If you notice that Godzilla and Rodan are like this far apart away from each other, you know what I'm saying? Because they built up this semi-antagonistic relationship. It was like, look, we'll do the job. Like, we'll work together to do the job. At the end of the day, we're not going to be friends. You know what I'm saying? So I really like that semi-antagonistic relationship between Godzilla and Rodan. They're not friends, but if need be, they will come together to fight the good fight. But I like at the very end, even though they were on the same page for a little bit, it's not like, they were hugging on each other saying, yeah, congratulations, we did it, blah, blah, blah. No. One was on this side, the other was on this side, and I bet they were doing the side eye to each other. I bet they were like, it ain't over. I'm gonna get you. It ain't over, So I really do like that, you know what I'm saying? But again, I know I'm kind of rambling at this point, but to put a bow on this, I think, in my opinion, the 64B Godzilla suit should be celebrated a little bit more, a whole lot more. And again, I know I'm guilty of celebrating the Mosugoji suit a lot. And, again, this is my favorite suit. But still, there's a lot to love with this version of Godzilla. Again, it was the first Godzilla suit that was reused for a mainstream appearance. It was the first suit that basically fought Ghidorah and kickstarted this epic rivalry over the years between Godzilla and Ghidorah. Again, it would go on to become Gomez and Jiraz, which kicked off two awesome shows, Ultra Q and Ultra Man. They were able to get some miles out of this suit, whatever. So again, even though the Mosugoji is more celebrated, there's a lot to love with the 64B Godzilla suit. And hopefully I can convince y'all to give it just a little bit more love, because I know I am. You know what I'm saying? So that's pretty much it with what I want to talk about on this Collect All Monsters vlog number 3, an appreciation of the 64B suit. Again, if you can find this guy, please go after it. I do see him pop up on Mandarake every now and then, both the standard and the Rick. Again, the Rick comes with a mini replica of Rodan and Mothra, but again, they're not in scale with Godzilla as well as King Ghidorah. So if you're a scaling freak like I am, that probably wouldn't work. But if scaling is not really an issue for you, then hey, I say go for the Rick as well. But either way, if you're a fan of this suit or this incarnation of Godzilla, you owe it to yourself to go after this piece. Or maybe if you're lucky, maybe you can find yourself the MM28 Godzilla 64B kit. And hopefully you can get your hands on it. But in the meantime, I just want to show some appreciation to this suit. You know what I'm saying? So if you're just getting here late, like Johnny, what's up, Johnny? What's up, Eric? Hey, that's what replays are for. Go back and watch the replay. I was just giving you my thoughts and opinions of the 64B Godzilla suit. So go back and watch the replay. I'm about to wrap it up here. But again, I think we should go back and show this suit some love, especially since it's celebrating anniversary this year. Again, I know the Mosugoji is more celebrated and more attention is devoted towards him. But let's not forget about this guy too, because he's worth celebrating. You know what I'm saying? Now, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Now, I don't know when the next Collect All Monsters vlog will be. I've encouraged other members of the crew to do theirs, to do a vlog, and it doesn't have to be anything in particular, just whatever's on your mind, and you want to just start talking and get it out there, just in an effort to beef up content on the channel. So hopefully somebody will execute this idea. If not, I may come back. I know I will come back at some point and do a vlog on a particular topic. Again, I was just thinking about this as I was driving the other day, and I haven't seen too many people really uplift this guy, or at least giving it some glowing praise. So I was like, you know what? I'll do it. So, but again, I don't know when the Collect All Monsters vlog is going to be. Again, this is just a random thing. That's why you need to subscribe to our channel right here, Collect All Monsters YouTube channel, as well as our Facebook group. Please sign up for the group, Collect All Monsters, Monster Collectors, excuse me, and become a member. Answer those questions. I can't stress it enough. Answer those questions and be a part of that awesome group. As also subscribe to the Monster with Attitude show, as well as their Facebook group, Monster with Attitude. And you'll get access to some great conversations, some great posts, some great pictures, and you get an idea of what shows are coming between both our respective platforms. Now, at the time of this recording, I am still trying to figure out, I'm probably going to have a decision made by the end of the day, and I'll start reaching out to people about what the idea is. But if you recall, a couple months ago, I proposed that Collect All Monsters and Monster with Attitude would come together to do like a joint show, like once every quarter. And I was reminded recently that the end of the quarter is coming up real soon, next month, at the end of March. So between now and next month, we will have that first joint show between some members on Collect All Monsters versus some members on Monster with Attitude. Excuse me, Attitude. And again, I'm gonna get that. I'm gonna get everything worked out today and start reaching out to people who I want on the show and all that good stuff. And it should be real interesting. Again, there are so many topics to discuss, so many points and counterpoints to discuss. So hopefully we will get that done in between now and the end of the quarter next month in March. You know what I'm saying? But our next episode of Collect All Monsters is, let's see, let me go to my, I should know it offhand, but I think it is, if I'm not mistaken, it is March 17th. Yes, a week after the Oscars. So you never know. Godzilla -1 might be an Oscar winner by then. And we're planning like an Oscar type of show. That's all I'm going to say. But we're doing some real big planning for that show. And on top of that, it's our 50th episode. So again, we're expecting some big things involving that episode. And maybe the weekend before or after it, we will do the joint show between Collect All Monsters and Monster with Attitude. Either way, subscribe to Collect All Monsters. Subscribe to Monster with Attitude, and you will be in for an awesome, enjoyable ride. Trust me when I say that. Yes. So in honor of the 64B Godzilla, why don't you pop in Ghidorah Three-Headed Monster or Mothra vs. Godzilla, but watch Ghidorah Three-Headed Monster. Show this guy some love, and he starts his slow babyface turn into a babyface as he fights Rodan, gets sprayed in the face by Mothra, and brings the fight to King Ghidorah. Let's show some love to the awesome 1964 B Godzilla suit from his epic appearance from Ghidorah or Ghidorah, the three-headed monster. Yes. And thank you so much for being here. I really do appreciate it. So, until next time, our planet may be doomed, our Earth devastated, the monsters are in revolt, and civilization is in chaos. We must unite and collect. Godzilla, damn it. We must unite and collect all monsters. Take care, guys.